on the last item of the law of justice, justice and charity, maternal and filial love. It's only 3 questions, and then we move to a new chapter. So we've been discussing the law of justice, love and charity for a couple of weeks now, and we are just finishing it. So I'm going to ask Paco to read for us question 890. Okay?
Okay. Is maternal love an instinctive virtue or feeling shared by both humans? Both. Nature has endowed a mother with the love of her children to guarantee their survival. In animals, maternal love is limited to providing the material needs of the mother's offspring. This affection ceases when this care is no longer needed. In the human race, it lasts for a lifetime and assumes a character of selfless devotion, raising it to a virtue. It even survives death and follows the child in the afterlife. Therefore, there's more to this love than that which is in animals. Okay. Since maternal love is natural.
Okay, Paco. Yeah, let's talk about this first one. So here we run into something that we've been discussing, which is the problem with the word love, that has different meanings and different types. Of course, the natural instinct of animals towards their offspring, it is of protection. It cannot be compared to the love of that a mother feels for their child. So what we are using the same word, but it's completely different. In the animal phase, it's an instinct of protection. It's the seeds that will become love when we go to the human phase, but we cannot, we cannot compare at any rate. It's completely different, because if it was love in the sense that we understand, the animals would continue caring for their offspring till they die. So the moment the offspring can take care of themselves, this love that's not really love ceases to exist. So it's really an instinct of protection that animals bring with them through their evolution, and it is the seeds for what we are going to call a maternal love in the human phase. So when we reach the human phase, we build a different connection with our offspring. So this instinct that mothers have develops in something much bigger, which is the love that really carries on for the lifetime and even after life. We know that being eternal souls, the connections with our loved ones that we have lasts for eternity. So we cannot even try to compare here. These are completely different things. Okay. Questions? Can you go ahead?
Okay. I have a question.
Yes.
If I have a mother in this incarnation, I've had multiple mothers throughout my incarnations. Am I correct?
Yes.
Is that the love of maternal love is going to be through a multitude of mothers?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the different cases, exceptions here in the next couple of questions, and we are going to. I'm going to answer your questions later. Okay.
Okay. Since maternal love is natural, why mothers hate their children, and often from birth? That's true.
There is a word missing there. Why some mothers hate their children?
Some, yeah. Why
Okay.
mothers? Why some mothers? Okay, it should be why. That's true. Why some mothers should be there. Yeah. The absence of maternal love is sometimes a trial chosen by the spirit of the child, or for an atonement if the child has been a bad father, mother, or child in a prior life. In any case, a bad mother can only embody a bad spirit who tries to make the child fail in the chosen trial. The violation of natural law does not go unpunished, and the spirit of the child is rewarded for the obstacle it overcomes.
Okay, so now we are talking about our eternal life as spirits, and the question 392 talks about reincarnation. So when we understand our evolutionary journey, we know that we acquired many enemies throughout our journey, and the surest way for us to overcome these issues that we have with other spirits is to come in the same family, sometimes as brothers and sisters, sometimes as children, or parents and children. So someone, and we study in many books of André Luiz, we study cases of obsessors that are being reborn as children of the ones they're obsessing. So the mother there, if she's giving birth to a child that she has an issue in the past, and they are enemies, she's going to have the inclination to hate or to despise or to be estranged with their own children, but this happens because we need to readjust, and sometimes these problems are so deep ingrained into our unconscious that when the energies that spirit that we feel from that spirit causes us to repel them. So it is an atonement, and it can be a trial chosen by the spirit of the child, by the spirit of the mother, can be a form of readjustment. Now, what they're saying here is very clear, right? A bad mother can only embody a bad spirit, meaning if a mother is more evolved and has overcome the sentiments of hatred and of anger and hatred towards others, so she agrees to receive a child that still harbors hatred and towards her, she's not going to reject, she's not going to hate, because she already is vibrating at a different level. So that's what the spirits meant here. So an inferior spirit that is still immersed in their inferior tendencies are the only ones that are going to have issues with their offspring, with the children, because they are still struggling in their evolution. So this is very very important to understand the different aspects of parenthood, and this applies to fathers, of course, also, but we see more with mothers and the problems with their children. And again, we are not incarnated surrounded only by loved ones. We incarnate in places that we need to have those that we need to readjust Either we help them, they help us, we help each other. So it can be, in some cases, mothers and children, fathers and children, and they will have to learn to overcome this tendency. So the instinct of love that a mother feels for a child is the best way to overcome this, this challenge, this hatred that exists between two spirits. It's the best opportunity, but it does not mean that that will happen. Maybe we will refuse, and that happens. Okay. Now, going back to Paco's question just a little bit, we had many lives. So yes, we have many children. We have many parents. We have many, we are in eternity. We are connected through love to our loved ones that can play the role of parents, children's, friends, sisters, brothers. So, but we are always building connections also for the future until we become a universal family that everyone loves everyone else. In this journey, we are evolving and acquiring more connections and more loving connections. So families are opportunities for us to develop this love for one another. Opportunity doesn't mean that we're going to be successful. And we see many cases of brothers and sisters that never speak for the rest of their lives, or parents that end up become estranged from their children. But again, we can only do our part. If we overcome our bad inclinations towards those in our family, that's all we can do. We cannot solve the problems of others. Okay?
Very good. So, question.
Yes.
Okay, so I can say that family is an instrument for me to learn how to love, which eventually will translate into universal love.
Yes. Yes. But you know, we are at this stage of evolution. We are not capable of love humankind equally, right? With a selfless.
Oh no, I understand. No, you explained it well. You explained it well.
So we have to go. We have to go slowly, and the family is the opportunity to learn to love and to readjust. It's the most important opportunity that we have in our incarnation. Again, each case is its own case. There are people that have no families, natural families, or they become estranged from their families not for their own choice. So each case is a different case.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Anyone else? No?
Very well explained, Joel.
Okay. Last one from this chapter.
When parents have children who cause them grief, are they excused for not feeling the same tenderness they would have felt if their children's behavior had been different? No, because parents are responsible for training their children. Our mission is to put forth every possible effort to lead them to the right road. Besides, the grief of the parents is often the consequence of the bad habits they have allowed the children to adopt from birth. They are forced to reap what they sow.
So here we have two things that we have to discuss. First, parents that are irresponsible in raising their children, and again, irresponsible is not a great word, but they don't care enough for their children and end up having problems when their children become adults. They are, of course, each one is an individual spirit, and the children also are their own independent spirit, and they have their own responsibilities. But we learn from spiritism that the best opportunity for us to mold a spirit into a new incarnation is from when they are from 0 to 7 especially, and from 7 to 14 also a little bit less, but still. So that's the time that we have to teach them to control their bad habits, to teach them to learn good habits, good efforts. And if we don't, then eventually, if we reap what we sow later, we also are the ones to blame. Now, if we did our job, and again, we are imperfect spirits, we're not going to be perfect parents because we're not perfect spirits. So if we did the best we could, considering our own circumstances, our own evolution, our knowledge, meaning we look back and we see that according to the best of my abilities, I try to raise my children as best as I could, and we still find children that are ungrateful and that are deviate from the right path, then our responsibility is very limited, because in the end we are all immortal spirits. The title of the book from Hermínio Miranda, Our Children Are Spirits. They are not our own creation. They are God's creation, and they come into this life already on a long journey. So they are going to bring their own shortcomings, imperfections, and qualities. So we try to help them control their bad habits, their imperfections, to learn better habits. But if in the end, it's also their own journey. So we cannot be 100% responsible for the outcome of our children, because they are their own individual spirits, right? We cannot, the same way, we cannot blame 100% our parents if we don't find ourselves well adjusted. It may be partially our parents' fault, yes, but it's never 100%. We have our own responsibilities. We can do our own job. We are individual spirits, and we have our free will. So it goes both ways.
Yes.
Okay.
That's true.
This is the last question. So if nobody has any question, we're going to move to a new chapter. So if the relationships between children and parents were good, was I that good, or nobody understood anything?
No, you were very good.
Carol,
You were very
Carol,
good.
yeah.
Wait, I have a question, John.
Yes.
But this situation happens for all parents?
What situation?
Like the kid doesn't get along. We're always fighting, because it is my case. My daughter, sometimes I feel like I don't need any enemy in my life. She's enough, you know.
Yeah. No, it doesn't happen to everyone. Depends on individual spirits, and again, when they reach a certain age, normally in the teenage years, they become they fully become their own individuals, bringing all their qualities and imperfections to their existing present life. So in that, sometimes they are going to express their imperfections, and the easy targets are the parents, right? Because when they start struggling in the world, they want to blame someone, the easy targets are always the parents. So they are going to blame the parents, sometimes with reason and sometimes without any reason. But that's something that, again, we have to deal with our own conscience. If we are doing the best that we can and they don't recognize and they still don't accept, it's all we can do. We have to do our best and hope for that eventually. And I heard many cases of children that were rebellious, that were very disruptive to their parents, and in the end, eventually, they became very good friends with the parents later in life once they reach maturity. So we just have to be patient and hope and do our job. So Carol raised her hand and Daniela raised her hand. So let's go in order here. Carol.
Yes, John, in Spiritism, is there a specific role for the godparents that are probably not related to parents, but they do have a role to play?
Yes, absolutely. All those involved in the raising of a child, being parents, uncles, grandparents, godparents, they all have some sort of responsibility, depending on how much they are part of the upbringing of the child. So if the parents allow the godparents to be part of the raising of a child, then they become not as much responsible as their parents, because nobody is as responsible as their parents, but they become much more responsible than if the parents do not allow any interference. So let's say you're a godmother, but the parents do not allow you to say anything, to interfere. They reject all your trials to give advice. Then you cannot be responsible for something that you have no control. But if they invite you to be part of raising a kid, asking for advice, asking for help, for, send their kids to stay with you for a while, then you become responsible for the raising of their children, like the godparent, the great grandfathers and grandmothers, the grandparents, right? They are also. So yes, depends on how much you are involved, right? So the more involved you are, the more responsibility you have. But it's not like the parents, and that's obvious, right? Daniela.
Thank you, John.
The mother of my goddaughter.
Yeah, and Olivia thinks that you are godfather and godmother as well, like Jussara is from her too, so you have double. You don't know, you have two. she thinks you are in charge of that too for her. So my point here is the second part of the answer, when it says we reap what we sow in terms of allowing them to have bad behavior, right, or bad habits. My question or point would be more like, I see that they acquire bad habits that they get from us.
Yes.
Like more sort of imitating our bad habits instead of allowing them to develop bad habits that they come from their own or from outside of the house. The trickiest part for me is to see our bad habits right there in our faces, and then it brings grief, and it's hard to change because it's in us as well. So it's complicated.
Yeah, but then that's what I said before. We are limited by our own imperfections, being imperfect spirits. So we are not going to be perfect parents because we are not perfect. And of course, they are going to learn from us also some bad habits that we have. To be aware of them and to fight in ourselves those bad habits and showing to them that we are trying to overcome those bad inclinations is what we can do, hoping that it's going to work. But we cannot start being too rigid on ourselves, too strict on ourselves, because we are not perfect. We are going to make mistakes, and we cannot. If you are going to start blaming ourselves, we are going to start being miserable, and that's not going to help us, and that's not going to help them. So as we go along, we try to improve our quality of parenthood, but understanding that we are going to make mistakes. It's our journey. Our evolutionary journey is making mistakes, learning from them, and trying to be better. So yes, they are going to copy some bad habits that we have, but they're not going to copy everything, because sometimes, you know, they have their own qualities that will be able to overcome our own. You know, you see some things that your parents are or were that you are not. You didn't pick up all the bad habits that your parents had or have, right? So it's the same thing with our children. They are their own individual spirits, so they're not going to pick up all our bad habits. Some of them, yes, and then our job is to, as we recognize them, to try to correct and overcome. So I have 2 comments here on the chat. First one from Ruth that says that I know mothers and daughters that are like one, getting along perfectly all their lives. Yes, and these are normally kindred spirits that incarnate to help each other and to help others. So they never have any problem, because they are spirits that already have a natural love for each other. But it's not, unfortunately, it's not very common. Again, as we evolve, it's going to become more and more common. But nowadays, it's still most parents and children the relationship is not easy. And then Eliana asked, what do you do when children just don't want to listen to anyone? Not to grandmother, mother, father, grandfather. They just don't want to listen to their elders. What can we do? The only thing we can do is teach by example, be there for them, and wait patiently until they fall and get up again, and fall and get up again. Now, if what we cannot do is push them away from us. What we cannot do is cut ties with them. What we have, of course, we draw a line where they cannot abuse us, they cannot take advantage of us, but we keep the lines of communication open, being very clear always that we are not in agreement with what they are doing, with how they are acting, but patiently waiting for them to recognize, and it may not happen in this incarnation. We may have to go back to the spiritual world and start again a new journey. Unfortunately, that's what happens sometimes. So it's hard. It's very hard when you have either children or parents that we become strange. We see them doing things that we don't agree, but we have no power to prevent them from making mistakes, because either they became adults already, or they're on their own journey. The only thing we can do is pray, always ask for protection, and be patient, and understanding that if we are doing our best, that's all we can do.
I could also, if I could, say
yes,
that, I have children that are grown-ups, over 50 now, and I've gone through storms with them. And at times you would think it's the end of the world, that this is never going to end. And all of a sudden, life takes a turn. They grow up. They're not perfect. Oh, they need a lot of, learning and growing up, even at this age. But what I find is that we've become friends. A mother and a son, or a mother and a daughter, we're friends. I can talk confidently with them. They're not like they were in their 20s, in their teens, forget it. The 30s, they went through uphills and downhills. But now, very comfortable. I can tell them what I have to tell them with a lot of patience, and try to continue, even at this age, teaching them certain things that apparently they still haven't understood, but in time or in another life. But what I'm saying as a parent, hang in there, because it does become better. Not perfect, just like you always say, John, we are not perfect. We're far from it. But you can see a light in the tunnel, and that's what makes me, feel comfortable about what I did with them, even if I did huge mistakes. Okay, and but I see that whatever it took throughout the years, I could see it now. And I think it had to do a lot with Spiritism, because they saw that I really believe in this. And anytime there were problems in life, you can speak to them and give them explanation that makes sense. And because they're adults, they know that it makes sense, or that there's no other way, there's no truth to other ways of thinking, answers that Spiritism gives us, especially with reincarnation and what we have to go through. So all I could say is hang in there, mothers and fathers. It'll get better.
Yeah, thanks, Zoraida. And I actually I was thinking about you and your daughter that you mentioned in your study, I think on a Tuesday, right? That you know, when I was talking with Marisa about her daughter, I was thinking of your daughter. You have a great relationship with her, and in the past you had a very difficult one, right?
And trust me, she has a long way to go, but I mean, we talk with so much understanding now. She listens. She asks me for, answers, and I'm kind of shocked in a way, and I thank God every day. Thank you, God. I'm not going to see perfection. No way. But at least I can talk. We talk. There's no arguments no more. There's listening to each other, and that's what it is. And I thank God. It has a lot to do with what we have in our hands and in our lives. Spiritism teaches us and gives us answers.
Yeah.
So look deep.
So I have 10 years in front of me. Roberta is 40. Oh my gosh, it's forever. My gosh.
Yeah, but one thing that you have to remember, because we were talking about them changing, but we change also, right? We are not the same that we were 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So the problems we have now today with our children, in 10 years' time, they will be different persons, and we will be different also. We will learn more if we continue on this journey. All those that are here studying are interested in learning and progressing morally and intellectually. So in 10 years, you will also be much better and much more prepared to deal with it. So it helps us, and Zoraida said very well, right? So if we had the experience that we have today 20 years ago, we wouldn't make those mistakes that we made. But again, it's our journey, our evolutionary journey.
Yes. Okay. Yes, just praying a lot. Just God to help us.
Most important.
Oh boy.
Yeah. When there is nothing we can do in terms of directly assisting them, we have to pray. That's our last resource and most important resource that we have.
Yeah, indeed. Oh boy. Yeah. You asked to incarnate. You asked for this, so you have to. No complaining. No complaining.
Not gonna help.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
Anyone else, or can we move on?
One last thing I'd like to say.
Okay.
One last thing I'd like to say is that no matter if the parents were good or bad, there's a point in time in your journey that's irrelevant, because you are responsible for yourself.
Yes.
Am I making sense?
Yes, no, absolutely.
Because they would always sit back and say, well, I blame my parents, I blame my parents, I blame my... I have tons of friends like that. But you understand, let's say, actions, behaviors, and consequences.
Yes.
So okay.
Yeah, what Spiritism is great and also difficult is that it gives us a lot of explanations and a lot of whys, answers a lot of questions, but asks us to look into ourselves and not to blame others.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
We have to look into ourselves and see what are we doing with our lives, and try to understand that in our evolutionary path, we are going to make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from our mistakes and not repeat them. Because when we don't learn from our mistakes is when we create problems for ourselves.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Paco, let's go. Chapter
Yeah.
12, moral perfection. So we talk about a lot now.
Oh, you're talking about, oh,
Now
my
it's a moral.
chapter.
we are going, this is
Ah,
Paco's
let me put-
chapter, moral perfection.
The perfect human being.
Oh my
Okay.
God, this is
Okay.
a touch of levity in our discussion. A touch of levity. Okay, 893. Virtues and vices. Which is the most admirable of all virtues? All virtues are admirable, as they're all signs of progress on the moral path. Every act of voluntary resistance to the seductive influence of temptations for wrongdoing is a sign of virtue. But the sublimity of virtue entails the sacrifice of self-interest for the good of others without having any ulterior motives. The most admirable of all virtues is that which is based on charity and is the most fair-minded.
Okay, so when we are going to study moral perfection, and the first item is virtues and vices, we start with the virtues, because if we start with the vices, everybody is going to start feeling guilty, start feeling down. So let's start with the virtues. What are virtues? And again, yesterday I heard Décio Yandoli, who is a doctor in Brazil, and he has a theory that he always repeats that I like very much, that when we begin our journey as human individuals, we come with a tray full of empty small glasses, small cups, like the ones we have on the center for the passes, right? You imagine a tray with all the cups empty, with nothing inside. And all of those empty cups are the lack of virtues or imperfections that we have. Every time we fill a cup, we acquire a virtue, and we no longer have that imperfection. So as we continue on our journey, all virtues are the little cups that we are filling and overcoming the imperfections that we have. What we are, there is no darkness. There is the absence of light. So when you think about a dark room, you can light a candle and you will illuminate the room. You can light a match and you see light in the room. So, but if you open the door of the dark room to a room where there is light, darkness doesn't come into the light. Light replaces darkness. So our imperfections are like darkness, things that we have to replace with virtues, and that's what we've been doing throughout our evolution, and we'll continue to do until we reach perfection. So we have to look at our imperfections as perfections that we haven't acquired yet. Okay?
Very good, very good.
Clear? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Move it up a little bit. Some people do good spontaneously with having to overcome any conflicted feelings. Is there as much merit in their action as in that of others who have to struggle to overcome the imperfections of their own nature in order to do good? Those who no longer struggle against selfishness have accomplished a certain amount of progress. They have struggled and succeeded. and they no longer have to put forth any effort into behaving morally or justly. Doing good is perfectly natural to them because kindness has become a habit that they have acquired. They should be honored as veterans are. They have earned the medals. As you are still far from perfection, their behavior is astonishing to you because their action contrasts so strongly with that of the rest of humankind, and you admire it given its rarity. However, the exception in your world is the rule in more advanced worlds. Goodness is everywhere in those worlds because they are only inhabited by good spirits, and even a single foul intention would be considered an exceptional monstrosity. That is why these worlds are happy, and it will be the same on earth when the human race has been transformed and understands and practices the law of charity in its true meaning. Beautiful. Wow.
Yes. So when we read this question, of course, we think of Mother Teresa, for instance, right? That used to do good spontaneously without having to overcome any conflicting feelings. We don't think that she had any problems in doing good. Now, it is a sign of an evolved spirit that goodness is already part of who they are, so they don't have to think about it. We still have to do charity. We have to make an effort. I remember the lecture, I don't remember from whom now, that when he said, when you breathe or when you blink, how many times you breathe today, how many times you blink today, you know, we don't know. It's natural. It's second nature. How many times did you do charity?
Second nature.
Today? Yeah. How many times did you do charity today? Once, none, 3 times, but we can count because it's not part of who we are still. It's not second nature. When charity becomes second nature to us, then we will do it without having to put any effort. So the merit there is that we have learned and to do good without any effort, and it became part of us. So that's our merit in this action. So these are the very few and far between spirits that come here on earth, and that serves as an example to all of us or for those that surround them. And again, we have many more than we know because a lot of them work unknown to the rest of us. They do their own work without being noticed, without being famous, but they continue doing their work. And in this pandemic, I'm sure a lot of these missionaries are there working very hard to help all those in need. And we never hear their names. We know that we applaud the community of health workers, the community of workers that are involved in trying to help us overcome this pandemic, but we don't hear many individual names. But I'm sure there are a lot of missionaries out there doing their work so we can protect ourselves in this disease, this pandemic. Okay, questions, comments? No?
I have a comment.
Yes.
In our daily life.
Can you speak louder, Ruth? It's not.
Yes. In our daily lives, as I understand, say, have patience with someone, or at a time that you know, maybe you wouldn't feel good about something. When you hold yourself from rage and have patience with someone, that may be a form of charity also.
That definitely is a form of charity. It's not maybe, it's definitely. And because it's charity towards others and charity towards ourselves, because we are learning to exercise that virtue that we still do not have, but we are trying to acquire. Again, I'm not saying here that it's wrong to try to practice charity, even if we have to count, I did once or twice or 3 times today charity, because that's how we start. If we look back and I said, I didn't practice any single act of charity today, then we are starting to have a problem there, right? So anytime we control ourselves, anytime we force ourselves to exercise patience, to exercise containing ourselves, we are practicing charity towards others and towards ourselves. Okay. No raised hands. Next one. Go, Paco.
Okay. Besides the obvious faults and vices, what is the most characteristic sign of imperfection? Self-interest. Moral qualities are too often like gilding on copper that cannot withstand the acid test. Some individuals may possess good qualities that help them to appear to be virtuous. But those qualities, despite proving that they have made a certain amount of progress, may not be capable of standing trial. The slightest disturbance of their narcissism is enough to reveal their true nature. Absolute disinterestedness is so rare on earth that when you do encounter it, you may very well view it as a phenomenon. Attachment to material things is a sign of inferiority, because the more you care for the things of this world, the less you understand your destiny. Your disinterestedness, on the contrary, proves that you have a more elevated view of the future.
Okay. So here we have two parts. The first paragraph, when I talk about the most characteristic sign of imperfection, and again, it's selfishness, right? Because the basis of our problems starts when we are selfish, when we think of ourselves before we think.
I can't hear you. You're mute.
No, he said he will be back.
You froze.
Can you hear me?
Now,
Yes.
Now, yes.
Yes.
I'm back. Yeah, my internet is failing. So what's the last that you heard me talking about? Did you hear anything that I talked?
Yeah.
Did you hear any comment about this subject?
Being selfish. Yeah.
Yeah. So being selfish is what prevents us to follow the teachings of Christ, who said, "Do unto others what you would like the others to do unto you." If we think about ourselves, if we follow only our own interest, we are going to go on the wrong path. But also, what the spirits are telling us here is that some individuals may show a front of good qualities, but that those qualities they cannot stand trial, meaning they are qualities when nothing is going wrong. And we talk many times here about patience, right? You can be patient all your life. You lose patience once, you never had it in the first place, right? So of course, as we are working on improving ourselves, we have to expect from us some problems, some shortcomings. Sometimes we are trying to learn to be patient. We are not patient yet, but at least 5 times out of 10, we already are able to practice patience. So we are on the way of acquiring the virtue, because we are not going to acquire a virtue overnight. From one day we don't have, the other day we'll have. They are the work of a lifetime, sometimes more than one lifetime. So it's important for us to be patient with ourselves, patient with others, understanding that the evolutionary path is difficult and we are going to struggle. Now, a sign of inferiority, as they say here, is attachment to material things. So the more you focus on this present life and the more you focus on what you need and have in this physical life, the more difficult we will make for ourselves to detach from them when we go back to the spiritual world. So the more we care about things of this world, the less we have time to worry ourselves with things of our eternal journey, our eternity. So if you spend the whole day worrying about what your physical life is bringing to you, your work, taking care of your material things, and you dedicate 5 minutes a day to your spiritual life, by the end of a physical life, you have accumulated a lot of attachments to material things and very little spirituality. So we have to live our material life, our physical life. It's important. It's important for us to provide for ourselves, for us to be able to survive, because if we are having too many troubles in our physical life, it's going to make difficult for us to dedicate ourselves to others. So it's important for us to give the importance it is needed on the physical and life and material things, but attachment to them is where we start creating problems for ourselves, because then it becomes more difficult for us when we have to leave them behind, moving on.
Exactly.
Okay. Questions? No questions? Okay, so one more, Paco.
Okay. Well, is it 897?
896.
No?
896.
896. Yeah. Are there people who are indiscriminately generous and who dole out their money without doing any real good due to the lack of a reasonable plan? Is there any merit in that action? They have the merit of disinterestedness, but not that of the good they might do. While this disinterestedness is a virtue, thoughtless spending reveals a lack of judgment, to say the least. Fortune is no more given to some individuals to be thrown away than to others to be locked up in a safe. This is a deposit for which they will have to render an account. They will have to answer for all the good they might have done, but also that which they failed to do, as well as all the tears they could have dried with the money they wasted on those who did not truly need it. I like that.
Yes, that's a very interesting question, because here what Kardec is asking is, what about those that have a lot of resources, but and they are not they're not locking their resources, but they are wasting them without really doing any good.
No plan.
Yes. So we are here to evolve morally and intellectually. And part of this evolutionary path is to help others. Without charity, there is no salvation. So if we have the resources to help others in an efficient way, and we are misusing this opportunity, we are wasting our resources, not using them in a more effective way, we are going to be responsible for the waste of fortune that we are going to have in our lives. So what the spirits are saying here, if you have a lot of resources and you lock them everything up in a safe and you don't distribute to others, and if you have a lot and you distribute without any consideration and without being useful to others, it is the same problem. It is this, you have the same responsibility. So of course, as we always say, the best way is the middle ground, being responsible with what you have to take care of yourself, to take care of your loved ones, and to take care of the community that is in need of our assistance and our help. It's very subtle here, the difference, and sometimes difficult to understand. Someone that has a lot of money is wasting our money in a lot of non-useful things to society. Sometimes it's hard of thinking of an example, but there are a lot of people that waste their money in things that doesn't really help many people. So it's a matter of how to best use the resources you have to be of assistance and of help to others.
Right. Exactly.
Was clear?
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So we're not going to go to the next one because we have 1 minute left. So Daniela has a question. Go, Daniela.
The only thing I don't understand here is that in the question above, it says the disinterestedness is a sign of a virtue. But in this case, it's not then.
No, disinterestedness, meaning in the sense of being too attached to your material possessions, is a virtue. But spending them without being conscious of what you are doing reveals a lack of judgment. Okay, so that's what they're saying here. Disinterestedness, it's a lack of attachment to material things.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we stop here. Our reminders, we have this Saturday, we have a lecture on the USSF Virtual Spiritist Talk Series at 11 a.m. The lecture will be Reflections on Pain by Anne Sinclair. And Anne Sinclair is a spiritist that lives in the UK for over 30 years, and she's one of the most active members of the spiritist community in the UK. She's been a translator for Divaldo in the UK and Ireland for over 30 years also. So she's been doing a wonderful work in the dissemination of Spiritism. And so she will be giving us a lecture on reflections on pain. You are all invited. Our Saturday lectures have been very interesting and is really worth if you have an opportunity. And remember, they are always recorded on and placed on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to see the lecture through the United States Spiritist Federation YouTube channel or Facebook. And all these lectures leads us to the symposium that now we're going to start talking about. The symposium will be on June 6th and 7th. It's on a weekend. and there will be a virtual symposium also, and you will receive more information during the month. It will be in 2 days, 3 hours each day. So it's going to be a very, very interesting symposium, and you are all invited, and I hope you can join us there. Okay, so now we're going to invite Carol to do our final prayer. Carol?
And how about Sunday, João?
Sunday, thanks, Luisa. This Sunday.
The Gospel according to Spiritism, the Consoler.
Thanks.
Infinite Creator, all goodness and grace, we are grateful for the opportunity to be together this evening to study the Spirit's book in our community. We are truly grateful for what we have learned, what we have gleaned, and what we are able to cultivate within so that we may share this with others through our discernment. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors, the good spirits, the mentors, who are assisting us this evening to receive all the information, the blessings, the light, the healings, and the love. We are truly grateful for the assistance, not only this evening, but throughout the week. May we continue throughout the week with our prayers, with our studies, with our mindfulness and contemplations. May we receive this information and put it within our hearts, within our minds, as the light of Christ would. May we continue to ask for safety and protection. We humbly ask for healing for those who are in need, for our community, and for the world in general at this time. We ask for the protection and a greater download of healing, health, and well-being for all, especially those who are assisting the process of healing. And as we close this portion of the meeting tonight, we ask to be continuously the beacons of light in our world. May we go forth now and receive the light and love of Christ within. Go forth now in peace, so be it.